Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question.
Yeah.
Jeff.
Yep.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. I just got some new tires on my car.
Ooh, exciting.
It was exciting the way that...
it is not exciting is what I meant, but go on.
The exciting part was that I didn't die on the road.
Oh, it is always exciting to continue living.
Right, because so far this winter has been fairly mild.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been having a bit of snow the last few days.
A little bit.
And the roads were pretty slick one morning, and I was driving Skylar to work, and I was like, this does not feel safe at all.
Okay.
I knew I've been needing to get some tires soon.
Yeah. Okay, so you were just losing traction in the snow?
Yeah. Well, so I was like, and then I was driving, after I dropped her off, mm-hmm. I was driving out to meet up with my family.
Okay.
And there were points when I was just like, I don't have traction at this moment. I'm going 50 miles an hour and I don't have traction. The slightest breeze could have just sent me spinning out. I'm like, okay, we're gonna take this as slow as possible.
Sure.
And go to the nearest, bell tire or whatever.
Yeah.
And so
bell tire.
So I got some new tires, which, was needed, but it's kind of exciting now because driving with new tires.
Yeah.
I feel,
nice.
I don't want to act like I'm invincible and just start going crazy. But I felt like I was like, yes, this is great. I actually I drove, it's snowing right now and the roads aren't great. Mm-hmm. But on the way here, I was like, I'm fine. I'm doing good. I wasn't slipping and sliding at all. I just thought the roads were terrible. Really, it was my tires.
Sure.
I mean, the roads are terrible, and you should.
Jeff, it's 50 degrees and sunny out. What are you? What's wrong with you?
I have a tan right now.
Yeah.
So that's it's fun, I guess.
Okay.
Having new tires on a car in Michigan is, I don't know, for some reason that was it felt good. I was like,
sure.
I'm glad to not have died. And now I feel like I can take on the roads.
Yeah.
And it's good.
I can understand that. Whenever there's snow on the ground, changing lanes is the scariest thing in the world. Because there's you're driving in a little groove.
Right. And people have cleared the bit of snow out of the way.
Going from one lane to another, who knows, you might just hit the little bit of snow in between the lanes wrong and then spin out.
Yeah, because it's you got the snow that kind of piles up because it gets pushed aside by all the cars. So you got this little mound of snow that you get across. And then underneath that is usually a lane marker.
Sure. Which
those have a little less,
a little smooth. Yeah.
Little bit smoother. I'm sure they make them so they're not.
Sure. Depending on the road.
Slippery, but so it's you could just kind of oops, a daisy. So, I mean, I always try to drive. I drive pretty cautiously. Mm-hmm. Hopefully my new tires won't change that, so I won't start going crazy. But so that was my exciting weekend.
That's pretty exciting. So I think I mentioned that I've gotten back into 3D printing.
Yeah.
I 3D printed some terrain
mm-hmm.
Last week, I think. Yeah. And I have sitting right in front of you, I printed a little puzzle box.
Yeah, it's a little lockbox thing.
Yep. And I'm going to take it with me to the next D&D game at the library. And then I'm going to try to incorporate a puzzle that the players have to open a box, and I'm going to hand it to them. And then they're going to have to figure out how to open it. And then the clue for the next thing is going to be inside there.
Somebody's just going to strong arm it.
I hope not, because I'm sure they could very easily just break it open.
I mean, it's actually, just holding it, it's fairly sturdy. Yeah. They're gonna know right away. Oh, it's not just gonna pop.
One
open.
of them just pulls out a pair of scissors and jabs into it.
He just stabs it.
Yeah. I just bought a resin printer, the same type that you have.
Yeah.
And so I'm very excited to try that out, and because I have not had great results printing miniatures on my filament printer. Yeah. So I'm really hoping that with the resin printer, I'm able to print a bunch of miniatures and then have some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I'll actually there's a couple pieces of software I'll send to you.
Sure.
That because the default slicing
slicer.
Yeah, the default slicing program. Like it's kind of rough. So like there's one that a lot of people recommend, and then there's one other piece of software that's like you go kind of like layer by layer, and it'll clean it up as best as it can automatically, and then it'll tell you where it couldn't do that, and then you go in and fix it yourself.
Okay,
so
cool. Because the current one I use for my other printer doesn't do that. I'm sure I will have put pictures of it on the Discord or something by now, but I just finished 3D printing a lightsaber.
Yeah,
Anakin's lightsaber from the first Star Wars movies, the one that Luke gets in A New Hope. Although the one that Luke gets has had some, it's a little bit beaten up, and there's some parts have been replaced, so it's a little bit different than the one that Luke gets, because that one's more like broken and fixed and so on.
Yeah.
Anyway, and it looks great. I love it. I'm very, very happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, it's cool.
So 3D printing is awesome. Everybody go get a 3D printer. It's awesome. Enough of that. You want to go ahead and jump into this episode?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. This episode, I think is. I think we've got some stuff to talk about this one. So
okay.
So Jeff, I want you to imagine you are in a market, and there's people everywhere, the hustle and bustle. Somebody's shouting out. They're selling sugar dates and figs, sugar dates and pistachios. And you notice that there's a guy off in the corner. There's like a breeze blows by, some dust, and like, oh, he's just there. And he's got this mysterious look on his face. And you get over there, and he whips out a map. He holds it up just for a second, so you can only see it for a moment. You can't dedicate it to memory. But he says, this map leads to somewhere very, very lucrative.
Ooh.
How much are you willing to pay for this map?
I'll give you 20 gold.
Give me a persuasion check.
All right. 14.
Okay. He hears your offer of 20 gold, and he counters with 30 gold. You'll be getting thousands. Trust me, you'll be getting thousands of gold after you have this map. I got to get rid of it. I got a bunch of other maps that are just taking up space. So 30 gold, he says.
All right. I'll do 30 gold if you throw in the rest of those other maps.
Well, I do have to clear out a bunch of space. Sold. Those are all maps to the laundromat or something. But the one that he was showing you, you pay him your 30 gold, and then he gives you the map. And do you know where this map leads, Jeff?
Where does it lead?
It leads to the Dragon's Hoard. That
was a bargain.
Except you realize that at the top of the map, it's HORDE. So basically, the dragon has an army that's about to attack town, and now you just know how to reach the army.
Oh,
so
well.
So you got
you
got swindled.
It's just like a mailing address.
Yep. All right. So today's magic item, and the magic item in this case actually doesn't quite fit the setup, but something else in the episode might. So today's magic item is submitted by DM Doom Oz via Discord, who I believe is Justin from Crit Academy. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that is the case.
Yeah.
And the item is the Star of the Astral Sea. This is a rare, wondrous item. This large sapphire pendant glows when an ally is near death, allowing you to transfer your own life force to rejuvenate them. This necklace has 3 charges and regains 1d4 expended charges daily at dawn. You can use an action to expend a number of hit dice up to your Constitution modifier. When you do, a creature with less than half their maximum hit points can immediately gain a number of hit points equal to half the number rolled plus your Constitution modifier. A creature cannot gain this benefit again until they finish a short or long rest. So, pretty simple.
Yeah.
You can spend an action and a charge to give up some hit points, and then they get most of those hit points. They don't get all of it. It's not a 1-to-1. That would be a bit too good.
Sure.
But, the tank, the fighter or the barbarian or whatever, can transfer some hit points to the wizard or the cleric. The cleric is probably a good idea.
Right, yeah.
And that's what this does.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Just the different ways to keep people on their feet, but that's more than just casting a healing spell.
Yeah. I'm wondering how well this would interact with the spell Shield Other.
Oh.
Which is I guess it would be I guess in my head for a moment I was like, oh, that would like conflict or something. I guess it wouldn't really. Shield Other is when you cast a spell on somebody, when that person takes damage, half of it goes to you instead.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess if you were to, use the two of the, that and this spell in conjunction, you could have a pretty good control over who has how many hit points and when.
Sure, yeah.
This makes me think of, there is I'm always talking about the podcast, The Adventure Zone, because it's a great show. Our good friend Steve recently got into it. He hasn't finished the first campaign yet, but he's a ways into it. And anyway, one of the story arcs, it's called The Suffering Game, and it takes place in this like dungeon or whatever, where the players are constantly being taxed, like their resources are constantly being taken from them, and not just hit points, not just spell slots, but like they end up having to give up a lot of things that non-tangible things, tangible things, and so on. Anyway, and one of the rules that they find out, small spoilers for this arc, but after a few episodes of being in there, they find out you're not allowed to heal here. Anytime someone gets hurt, if you heal them, they instantly lose the hit points that you gave them. So like any healing spells basically have no result.
Right.
But periodically there will be times where one person can give hit points to somebody else, and it's similar to this magic item. It is in it. There is some loss in there.
Gotcha.
So you could give someone, you could spend 20 of your own hit points to give someone else 10 hit points.
Right. Yeah. So somebody's in a really bad way.
Yeah.
You can kind of get them in a good spot.
Right. So like in that example, like that dungeon is very dangerous. Like, if there's a lot of combat, it's going to go real bad real fast. But I like the idea of, if you really have to transfer some hit points, you can, but it's at a loss.
Sure.
I like that. It's definitely a risk-reward thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just got to do it. It's more important for the cleric to be alive than for the rogue or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of like the only healing that the party has available left is like the fighter's second wind. But like the healer is like, or like the wizard or somebody is dying.
Yeah.
The fighter
can be worth it.
Yeah, the fighter could be like, okay, I'll spend my life to heal this person, and then just second wind to get myself some hit points back to make up for it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, this is a fairly simple item, but I think it serves a good purpose. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
And I like that it's the Star of the Astral Sea. I wonder what sort of flavor or world building could be gotten from that. Maybe like this is maybe a remnant of a dead god or something, that like maybe there was a god of trade, like a god of equal trade or something like that, and this is like a corrupted piece of their body that fell into the the endless astral sea after they died.
Yeah.
And somebody found it, and like it's lost some of its power or become cursed, and so as a result, like it doesn't quite trade properly.
Right. Yeah. It's not a one-to-one trade anymore.
Sure. Or if it was like the god of blood or something like that. This is like an artifact created by the god of blood, and every time you use it, the god is literally siphoning away part of your life force.
Sure, and he gets to keep.
Every time you don't realize it, but every time you use it, that god gets some of it, or something like that.
And then like the more you use it, the more like he might return to power or something.
Sure.
So,
yeah, like maybe there have been a whole bunch of these, and they're scattered across the multiverse, and once enough people use them,
it like
there you go.
He comes back and starts trying to take over or something.
Sure. So yeah, definitely some cool potential with this. So that was the Star of the Astral Sea, submitted by DM Doom Oz via Discord. Thank you very much, DM Doom Oz. Jeff, if anybody wanted to be like DM Doom Oz here, and they wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Horde, or stories for the Funeral Pyre / Retirement Village, or if they want to submit questions for us to discuss, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
That's correct. And before we go any further, we have a giveaway to give away today. We're giving away a copy of Unearthed Tips and Tricks, Volume 1 from Crit Academy, which is a great book full of character concepts, encounter concepts, DM tips, player tips, magic items, and monster variants. Tons of those. And I helped write it, and I'm working on Volume 2.
Cool.
So hopefully, they'll be probably coming out later this year, but hopefully that one will be made better by feedback from the first one.
Sure.
Anyway, so we're giving away a copy of Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 1. Who is our winner this week?
Our winner this week is David J.
Whoa, winner.
Gobble, gobble, gobble.
Yes, congratulations, David J. It's funny because he actually was just asking me about this the other day, and I don't want him to think that it's because of that.
Right,
This is random chance, I assure you.
Yeah, we roll the dice for these things.
Every time we roll it, and sometimes it comes up, and it's kind of kind of amusing in that way. So David J, you should be getting that in your email pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
Be sure to leave a review on DM's Guild or Drive-Thru-RPG, wherever you are able to get it from. Leave a review so that Crit Academy gets more people seeing their products and so on. And also, if there's a review you can send to me, that can help me try and make the parts that I do for the next book better. And then I'm sure if there are tips for Justin as well, I'm sure Justin will take some reviews to heart as well. So thank you very much, David J, for entering. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to be like David J and enter this drawing, how would they do so?
They could send us an email at InterPartyConflict@gmail.com with unearthed tips and tricks in the subject line.
That's correct. And also, if you want to send us like a picture of a rat or a turtle, or something cool, maybe like a cool 3D model that you think I should print.
Oh yeah,
that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, link to like something on Thingiverse or something for Gabe to print.
So go ahead and submit those. And also, of course, thanks to Crit Academy for providing this wonderful product that we can give away to our listeners to hopefully get more listeners and so on and so on.
Yeah. So
thank you very much to everybody. Also, thank you very much to all of our wonderful patrons. We have a Patreon campaign at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. Patreon is an online platform where you can pledge to donate a certain amount of money to the creator of your choice. And in return for giving it to us, we've got some outtakes. We've got a monthly bonus episode that we do. We've got a monthly Roll20 game. Mm-hmm. As of this recording, we're going to be doing our Roll20 game tomorrow, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah.
And also, I was thinking I'm going to be adding some little small rewards to each of the tiers of our Patreon pretty soon. So stay tuned for that. I'm not going to say exactly what they are just yet, but we've had some requests, and I'm going to try and make that into something that we can make really cool.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. And of course, again, if you want to help out the show and get some cool stuff in return, go to patreon.com/InterPartyConflict, see if anything appeals to you. And then if so, every little bit helps. And we're really thankful to everybody who has donated so far.
Yeah.
All right. And then one more quick thing. Check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy. I already mentioned them. They made the Unearthed Tips and Tricks book, but every week they make new and reusable content for players and DMs alike.
Mm-hmm.
Also check out Brute Force and Ignorance. They are an actual play podcast on the network. And then D&D Character Lab is no longer making episodes, but they've still got lots of great episodes where they made characters every week and debated whose characters were better.
Yeah.
Enough of that. Let's get into questions for this week.
All right. Our first question comes from Samuel O. on email, and they ask, how would you go about trying to make a believable economy in a fantasy game world?
Yeah, so a lot of people, when they play D&D, there's different approaches to economy.
Mm-hmm.
You can just not
worry about it.
Worry about it. The players buy whatever they're able to buy. They sell whatever they're able to sell. D&D specifically has some questionable rules about selling magic items.
Right.
At times, some people try to take it a lot further, and they try to say, okay, well, it's this would happen if the players brought in this much gold from the Dragon's Hoard to this small of a village, it would do this, and so on and so on. So this kind of, I think this is probably gonna be the whole episode today. Is us talking about
this is a big topic.
Economy in D&D, how to make it work, whether or not you should try to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess let's get a disclaimer out there. I'm not an economist. I took economics in high school.
It's pronounced economist, but
sorry,
go ahead.
My bad. I'm not an economist. but so I mean, we're not going to be like giving you some real hard hitting truths here, but I think we've approaching it from a DM and a player standpoint.
Sure,
I think that we've got some stuff to say. Do you have any thoughts starting out?
Gold is shiny.
There you go. It's a good thought.
That's the end of our show.
All right. So to submit questions, you can blah blah. One thing I do want to say is that when this question was submitted, I kind of tweaked the question a little bit because specifically Samuel O, he sent me a link to, there's a Reddit post somebody made about economy in a world with magic and so on and so on. And we're not really going to be like specifically addressing this article, but there might be some things from it that I will use as examples of, some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about. So Samuel O, if you're listening, I took what I thought was the spirit of your question, and that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I do whenever a question isn't something that I think would make for a good discussion on the show. I try to take the spirit of it and then tweak it a little bit to our format.
Sure.
Yeah. So I guess here's a question, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that a bunch of a players bringing a heap of gold from a dragon's hoard to a small village, should that have a measurable impact on the price of things in the game?
To keep things just simple and fun, no. Yeah. I mean, maybe you might have like a little something happen just kind of just as like a joke, maybe, or like, or like something that you reference back to, like, oh, like the guy you actually spent all the gold on, like, left town.
Oh, sure. You see him later and he's like got a castle. Or
right.
something.
Yeah. Like you might come across another town later and it's a town that he started. And like, maybe he's not doing so hot because he doesn't know how to start a town.
Sure.
Like he's like,
no more money was coming in. That's how economy works. What did you do?
What happened? Yes. So it's like, he was like, started a town.
We can't keep up with inflation.
Hoping that like more adventurers would show up with more gold.
Yeah.
Realizing that it's not going to happen that often.
Sure.
I don't know. But beyond that, I feel like it shouldn't be too crazy, and like unless that's what the campaign is about.
Exactly. This is one of those things that, like, if the campaign is about economy,
right?
I could imagine some people having a blast with it. Some people that are like, because there's always the guy that's like really, really into chemistry, and then when something happens in the game that it's like, oh my goodness, that's like a chemical thing. I know how to deal with that.
Right.
They have a blast. I could imagine someone or a group of players that are very into economics or economic things or whatever, and I could imagine them having a really good time with like, oh, but what is the impact of this?
Sure.
What is the 10-year what's going to happen down the line? But I think that for most groups that is a level of granularity that is not going to add anything measurable unless it is just, like you said, a little reference later on. Oh, you come back to the town and all the buildings are twice as big.
Right.
Because this town now has money and they're able to whatever.
Mm-hmm. Because it's hard to quantify like exactly what that amount of gold would do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are some rules for it in most of the editions. Like to some extent, there might be like like the average wages of certain types of jobs and like how much a keep would cost for upkeep or something like that.
Sure.
Like they do get into some details. I think, in 5th edition, I think Xanathar and the DMG have some stuff regarding.
So I just grabbed my player's handbook, and whenever, because occasionally on Reddit or whatever, there will be a post that's like, how much is a gold piece worth? And you always get people that are like, well, 1 ounce of gold in the year that the book came out was valued at this much, so therefore blah blah blah. And it's like, no, that's not
what they're asking.
That's like, that is not the answer.
Yeah,
because like that's. You can't. No, there's so many things different between the two.
Yeah, what they're asking is like, they're trying to wrap their head around the concept of a gold piece. Like, how much is a gold piece? As in, like, to my real life currency. Mm-hmm. Like, does that equate to a $20 bill?
Sure. So, according to the player's handbook in 5th edition, because this is slightly different than 3rd edition, for example.
Sure.
An untrained hireling makes 2 silver a day.
Mm-hmm.
So like that is probably the best example of what an average person, not a craftsman,
right,
not a blacksmith, but like an unskilled person just going day to day, your average commoner is probably going to make 2 silver a day.
Yeah.
And looking at the lifestyle costs, a poor lifestyle is 2 silver a day.
Yeah.
So
they're breaking even.
yeah, just someone eking by 2 silver a day. That's probably the majority of the commoners are making that much.
Yeah, it's too relatable.
Sure. And then similarly, a skilled craftsman, so probably a blacksmith or whatever, makes 10 times that much. So 2 gold per day for a skilled worker as opposed to an unskilled worker.
Yeah.
And so that is 2 gold is a comfortable lifestyle.
Okay.
So most people, anybody who is not an adventurer or like royalty, is probably making between 2 silver a day and 2 gold a day.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to figure out how much, how, in the world, how much is a gold piece?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's for a skilled craftsman, it's half a day's wages. So, I don't know how much the average amount of money a person makes
right
in America today.
Right, but yeah, that's at least something you can wrap your head around.
Yeah. So I would say maybe as a rule of thumb, maybe it's not 100% accurate, but for a rule of thumb, a gold piece might be about $20. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. So so if you're like, yeah, I tossed the guy a gold piece, then that's like tossing them $20.
Yeah.
So if you're like at a tavern where a drink is I don't know, a copper or like a silver or something like that, tossing them $20 is the equivalent of like, yeah, you got like a large drink at McDonald's and he tossed him a 20 and then drove away. So like that's can be a lot.
Yeah.
Is that going to destabilize the economy? Hopefully not. Hopefully this episode will not make that ever even a thing.
Yeah.
One thing that has to be taken into account though, when talking about a quote unquote believable economy, and I do like the word believable because realistic should not be in here because magic, monsters,
right?
Like
magic, and monsters. There's like there's so many different so many different civilizations living in like the same area.
Yeah.
Like you have all the different races and
sure. The game just gets to be. I find it so much simpler just to say, that's just what it is. That's just how the economy works.
Right.
Because it becomes so much more complicated if like, okay, you're in a small village. So now we have to adjust the cost of everything. Everything's cheaper because they don't have as much money here, but then also they have a lot of wood, so anything made of wood is less valuable. So you can't sell those. You can't sell that bow and arrow because they've got too many bows and arrows here.
Right.
Or they have a lot of iron, so you get less money for selling whatever. I think that unless the game is about the increasing and decreasing values of different things, it's very easy to just say, okay, yeah, a longsword is 8 gold or whatever. Wherever you are, a longsword is 8 gold. We'll talk about magic items. I'll get to magic items in a little bit.
Yeah.
But in this Reddit article, it was the title was "The Mithril Standard Economy in the Time of Wizards." Mm-hmm. A few things that they mention is that with all of these like fantasy things that adventurers deal with, normal people are probably going to have to deal with those too. And as a result, a lot of things are going to be more precious because it's going to be a lot harder to get things, or at least if you're going for quote unquote believable or whatever. Because if you're a miner and you're just mining iron in the real world, yeah, sure. People just went down into a pit. They mined iron. They came back out with iron. Sometimes people died. But in a fantasy world, you might have just opened up a pit to the Underdark.
Right.
And now there's drow coming through. Now there's mind flayers attacking your village. So
there's the regular dangers of mining.
Yeah.
Cave-ins and whatnots.
Sure.
And then you got
existential threats.
Right. Freaking Umber Hulks. And,
yeah. What do you do if you're mining and a freaking Umber Hulk comes through?
They just because they can just waltz right through the stone.
Like it was light brush because they're that strong. They just crash right through. They just Kool-Aid Man through the wall. So, if you're going for believable, certain things could be really expensive.
Yeah.
But then also there's magic. And magic in general can take a lot of things and make them into more valuable things. You can use the fabricate spell to take raw materials and make them into finished products instantly.
Right.
So although it's a fairly high level spell, if you are a high level caster, you can now also be a master craftsman. Maybe not a master craftsman, but you can be a craftsman of anything.
Yeah.
And so like a village around an archmage's tower or whatever could very well have tons and tons and tons of very high quality things that they made for basically nothing.
Right.
In earlier editions, there were spells where you could permanently, you could like take a small amount of a material and make more of it. In 5th edition, it might be an equivalent, but a cursory look through the player's handbook didn't find any. But with magic, you can find access to things easier. Right. You can cast locate object and be like, where's gold? Where's diamonds?
Find gold.
You can open up a gate to the elemental plane of earth and bring in stone and gems and minerals.
What's that one monster that like can detect gemstones or something like that? It's an earth elemental, like they're like Zorn.
Oh, can Zorns do that? I know they can travel through stone similar to an Umber Hulk, but when they do it, it's like they're swimming through it. Umber Hulks are just bashing their way through it. Zorn, I think Zorns are probably what you're thinking.
Yeah, because I think they eat gemstones. I think, but so they can like detect them.
Yeah. So I mean, like there are ways to use magic. Again, some of it is high level magic, but I mean, if you're in a kingdom where the king has an archmage on his in his court or whatever, like. That kingdom is going to have tons and tons of raw materials, tons and tons of finished products. Mm-hmm. Heck, a lot of the raw materials out there might just be like long-standing shadow illusions that are like quasi-real, that for all intents and purposes are real. They're just made of shadow illusion material or whatever.
What if like there's like an archmage who can like create, like he basically creates like materials, and they're like, for all purposes, they work the same as the real thing, but they're still illusions.
Yeah.
And then when he dies, all those materials disappear. So like he could have like basically like created this whole civilization could have been based on these materials that were just coming out of nowhere. And then this archmage dies, and then it literally crumbles. Like,
Jeff, that's really cool.
It's just like there's like a city disappears overnight and people can't understand why.
Yeah.
And the players have to like figure out that it's tied to the death of this one archmage.
Sure.
Who would create stone from nothing.
And then they have to find a way to resurrect that archmage so that all of the stuff can be brought back.
Right.
But then maybe they find out he doesn't want to be brought back.
I was going to say, he's just be like, no.
So then they forcibly make a clone of him and then use a wish spell to put like a demon soul into him or something.
Wait, what?
I don't know. Don't worry about it. Some sort of something. That's an idea for a plot right there.
We'll call it Fiddler on the Roof. Wait.
What?
I don't know.
So one thing that I think is maybe relevant to bring up is the world of Eberron. Mm-hmm. Eberron is, kind of built on the idea of having a high fantasy magic economy.
Yeah.
In that there are these families that are, for centuries, have been born with these magical abilities to perform some kind of a trade. Probably the easiest example I always give is House Cannith. Some of them are born with magical abilities to be really good at crafting things. Mm-hmm. So as a result, if you want a really good crafted product, you find someone from House Cannith.
Right.
Even if it's not someone who has that magical ability, everybody else in the family is probably still going to be really well trained in craftsmanship.
Because like they're known for it because they kind of have to be because of their dragon marks.
I think it would be interesting to have a campaign or even just a little subplot or something about a blacksmith who's just been trying to, ply his wares, but nobody's buying from him because they know the next town over has, someone from House Cannith, and everybody just goes over there to get their stuff made instead.
Yeah, this poor guy, just because he wasn't born in the same the maker family.
Exactly.
It's like, well,
I'm
still good too.
I'm a good craftsman, maybe not magically good, but I'm still a good craftsman.
Right.
Why does this other family get to come and do all this stuff?
Right.
Now, the cool thing about Eberron is that because this is part of the backstory of the world, it fed into the world building. So, there is a lot more technology because there's people that are really good at crafting, because there are people that are really good at working magic into whatever their trade is.
Right. Yeah. Magic is just sort of born in the world. Like, it's just always there. Like you're always going to find magic somewhere.
Sure. So I really like that. But then again, that's because it's what the game is about.
Yeah.
That's what Eberron is about, is what if there's a world where magic is more commonplace and it's become part of the economy, part of society, part of technology, and so on and so on. So I like that about Eberron. I think that's one of the many things that makes Eberron really cool. I guess we can probably come back to some of this stuff in the future, but let me talk about things that I don't like about the D&D economy, the way that it's presented.
Okay.
You find a magic item in a dungeon. You find because 5th edition is kind of loosey-goosey with the buying and selling magic items and prices and so on. Let's dip back into 3rd edition a little bit.
Okay.
You find a +1 sword in a dungeon. Mm-hmm. According to the Dungeon Master's Guide, a +1 sword has a market price of 2,000 gold. Mm-hmm. If you want to buy one, if you didn't find it in the dungeon, you have a sword, you want to make it magical, you have to pay someone 2,000 gold to make it +1.
Right.
So then you find a +1 dagger or something in the dungeon, and you want to sell it. What happens, Jeff?
You could sell it for 1,000 gold.
Yeah, you sell it in 3rd edition. You sold it for half.
Yeah.
Whatever you find that's just part of the game,
right?
And of course, DMs could play it otherwise. They could allow you to haggle, and they could make a mini game or whatever. Or depending on the situation, say you can sell it for 75% or 25% if you're in a high magic area.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of ridiculous that no. The game is based around the balance of a +1 weapon costing 2,000 gold. So the DM is very much encouraged to make buying magic items cost 2,000 gold. But they don't want the players to be able to freely mix and match. So selling it, there is a loss.
Right.
Similar to the magic item that we talked about earlier with the loss in hit points. Mm-hmm. There was always a loss if you bought something and then sold it.
Right.
Which is kind of stupid. I understand that in the real world, if you're reselling something, it's probably going to be for cheaper. But I don't necessarily think that is like a law of physics. Depending on the situation, you can resell something for close to what you bought it for, if not the same amount, depending on, how in need somebody is.
Right. It's just all about finding the right person.
You always got to ask, why can't I be the guy buying it for half price? Who am I selling it to?
Yeah.
And why can't I be that person?
Yeah. Why can't I'll just go stand in a store and wait for somebody to show up with a.
Yeah. There's other adventurers in this world. If the guy that I'm buying stuff from, if he's selling magic items to lots of adventurers because he's making a business out of it, can I just wait outside his store and sell this for 75% instead of 50%?
The whole thing with economy is it's asking the question of like how many heroes or adventurers are there out there?
Yeah.
Because if there's only the PCs, mm-hmm. then it feels like the whole economy is based around like duping them, Like it's kind of based around like taking advantage of the PCs and their ability to go and raid the dragon. So it's like, we'll sell you these magical items. It's going to cost how much gold did you find in the dragon's hoard?
Oh, you found 4,000?
4,000?
Oh,
that's cool. What a coincidence.
In the game Final Fantasy X, there's a quote that I love. It's near the end of the game.
Oh yeah.
There's this merchant that like you've been running into throughout the game. Rin is his name.
Okay.
And you're on an airship, you're about to go fight, I don't think it's the last boss, but it's like you're about to go fight some giant flying monster. And one of the main characters, if you interact with this merchant on the airship, you're like, the world's going to end if we don't kill this monster. You won't give us a discount? And the merchant replies, I am confident you will succeed. I think that's great, but it is hanging a lampshade on this thing that is ridiculous. If everybody knows the village is going to be destroyed if you don't kill this dragon,
right?
They're not going to charge you 100% of market price for this thing.
Sure.
And it's ridiculous. Okay, another example that I think does it well is it's not a game, but Back to the Future 3.
Okay.
Marty McFly has spoilers, I guess, gone in the past. He's in Old West times.
Right.
And he has inadvertently angered Mad Dog Tannen, the village tough or whatever, and Mad Dog Tannen challenges him to a gunfight. And he doesn't know what the heck he's going to do, but like a guy comes up, hands him a gun, and he says, I'll give you this for free because if you win, everybody's going to know that this is the gun that, won this battle or whatever.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the movie in like 15 years. Maybe I'm getting some of the details wrong. But
that sounds about right.
That I would love to play in a game where merchants were like that.
Sure.
I will give you this for free. Pay me back after you get that after you kill a dragon and you get its sword.
Sure.
I would love something like that.
Yeah. It's like, I want the sword that killed the dragon to be the one that I made.
Exactly. I want the world to know that, I need to come up with a name. Coppersmith. I want everybody to know that Coppersmith swords are the ones that, that saved the village from certain doom.
Right.
Like even a little bit of that. I mean, maybe I'm sure there are DMs that do things like this. And especially, like I said, in 5th edition, the game is a lot more loosey-goosey with prices for magic items. So nowadays there is probably more room for this.
Sure.
But a lot of us, grew up in this era of no, you buy it at this much, you sell it at half as much.
Yeah.
4th edition made it even worse in that I believe the default selling price was 10% of what you bought it for.
Yeesh.
That game was a lot less grounded in story, however, a lot less grounded in believability. But still, there should have been there should have been some sort of a rule. I'll probably get to this. I guess I'll just get to this right now. This is kind of an all over the place episode, but for a long time I've had an idea that I want to come up with some sort of a system, and it could be just a very, very simple system for separating the money you spend on magic items for character advancement and the money that you spend in universe.
Right.
Because let's say you're a fighter. Again, this is in like 3rd edition days. Let's say you're a fighter that has a +4 sword and you want to get a +5 sword. You want to make your sword +5 instead of +4. A +4 sword was like, I think 36,000 gold. +5 sword was 50,000 gold. So for 14,000 gold, which again, we talked about the average person making, the average skilled worker making 2 gold a day in 5th edition. I think in 3rd edition, I think it was 1 gold a day. So you're making you're paying several years' wages, depending on the setting. Like I would even say for 14,000 gold, you can buy yourself a castle.
Sure.
That's probably in a Stronghold Builders book somewhere.
Yeah.
For 14,000 gold, for enough money to buy a castle, you are saying, I would like 5% higher accuracy when I swing this thing. Like, what is that?
Yeah, what even is that?
What even is that? It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make, somebody else might have a perfect way of imagining it, and that's fine. But to me, it makes no sense for that to be something the character is doing. I can understand the player is like, I want my attacks to be more accurate. So whenever I roll, I have a +1 to all my rolls. I'm willing to spend this much of my character advancement in order to get this 5% increase in attacks.
Yeah.
But it does not make sense when it is in universe. Does this person walk up with a bag of 14,000 gold, enough money that any thief's guild could sustain themselves for years?
Right.
If they just
steal from this
one person who is walking around with that much money to begin with, and then handing it over for something that is so intangible and might not, you probably couldn't even convince someone that was a real thing. Like, it doesn't make sense to me for that to be something the character is doing, because that is so not in universe. That is definitely a mechanics thing, not a flavor thing.
Yeah.
I can understand, yes, you're making it more magical, or if instead of making it +4 to +5, you're making it +4 flaming. Okay, sure, you're adding fire to this magic sword.
Yeah.
But again, the amount of money that you are handing over to someone in good faith that they will then enchant this thing, it's bonkers to me.
It's like, yeah, I've enchanted your sword. Yeah, it's totally better better now. Like, yeah, about 5%. Yeah, 5% sounds about right.
Right.
Yeah, and then you're just rolling and rolling. Like, well, like the character doesn't know that they're rolling a dice.
Maybe it's psychosomatic. Yeah,
Right.
it feels like I'm swinging better. Awesome. When actually, no, they didn't do anything. They just okay, they cast continual light on the thing, so now it glows. like it's on fire. And I understand, okay, in a world with magic, there's gonna be
Bob's discount magic items where it's just cast light on it.
Well, I was gonna say there's gonna be people that are like, oh yeah, bring your magic items to us. We'll check on them and see if they're actually magical or something. There's gonna be a shop that does. There's gonna be some business that does that.
It's Rick and Morty, where it's the devil with the cursed items.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking of. You get the cursed items from the devil's store across the street. You bring it over here. We'll get rid of the curse for a moderate fee.
Right.
So the way that I tried to do this in the 4th edition campaign that we ran a few years ago was, you have a certain amount of money in game that is actual currency your character has. Your character has a certain amount of gold. You've got, 100 gold or whatever in your pocket.
Yeah.
When we had DMs of Vancouver on a few episodes ago, they talked about giving the players physical coins. Like, you have a bag of physical coins that you have, and that's how much money you have.
Right.
That's great, but not when they've got 14,000 of them.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is why it makes more sense when the character only has 30 gold. But you've got, 10,000, I think I called them story points.
Sure.
To spend on advancement.
Yeah.
So, basically, instead of giving the players, okay, you killed the dragon, you each get 10,000 gold. You get 9,500 gold and 9,500 story points and 500 actual gold.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of gold to represent the fact that you just killed a dragon that canonically has a big hoard of gold. But as far as whether you are going to hand over a fortune to someone to give you a mild increase in your weapon accuracy, that's not a thing that happens. Instead, you're just spending a mechanical currency instead of an in-world currency.
Yeah.
It's not elegant, I know. It's really kind of clunky, but it does something important.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe something like a trophy system, maybe, where you're at the end of a quest or you kill a monster or something like that. You get, maybe a few coins or whatever.
Sure.
But you would get, you take the fang of the dragon or something, or a scale or something, and that equates to 2,000 story points, or that equates to 2,000 gold in magical items or something like that. So you could trade in these physical things. So they have something that represents them, but it's not gold. So you can't just hey, I got this piece of a dragon. Somebody's going to go gross, they're not going to do it. You can't buy beer with that.
What if you could?
What if you could? So it's something you're not going to be able to go to the convenience store and buy something with, but you could play it as you take that scale to a blacksmith and they form it into your new shield.
Sure.
Sure.
I think that could definitely work. Yeah. If it is that you are grabbing a trophy from your kill and so on and so on.
Yeah.
That could definitely work. I just, again, I think it's ridiculous when the numbers just get higher and higher. Because again, in 4th edition, not only is there the ridiculous, you sell it back for 10% or whatever.
Yeah.
But 4th edition's numbers for the amount of gold you had to spend was ridiculously high. You were spending millions of gold on an item that it was just now I get a D8 instead of a D6 when I use this ability once per day.
Sure.
And it's just because the game was segregated into different tiers of power. So an item that you could get as a heroic tier, so levels 1 to 10, might give you a D6 let's say a D6 health every time you use your healing surge or whatever. And then that same item fit for for the next tier, 11 to 20, would give you a D8, but the cost would jump up 100 times.
Right.
Just because, you're a higher level, so you're expected to be getting higher rewards and so on.
Yeah.
Even though the actual benefit was almost the difference was almost non-existent.
Right.
The 4th edition was so screwed up as far as magic item costs and just magic items in general. I think in our 4th edition game, I said these aren't magic items. Like, this is not a magical glove that you wear. This is literally just an upgrade to your character.
Sure, yeah.
I'm pretty sure is how I said that.
Yeah, that's it. Sounds right. Yeah.
So like my main issue is just mainly with 4th edition's economy and how they did stuff. 3rd edition's was also pretty stupid.
Yeah, it got pretty crazy.
Now in 5th edition, again, there are the player's handbook and the dungeon master's guide don't really give prices for magic items.
Right.
There are some examples in the DMG of there's like a little chart for like by rarity. Xanathar's guide had some sort of a chart or something that was different than the one in the dungeon master's guide. So there are some rules on how much magic items should cost. I actually, the more I listen to it in like actual plays and stuff, the more I like the idea of the DM specifically tailors magic item costs to the campaign. In that if they gave out 500 gold last session because the players did something really cool, then that's kind of the baseline for the cost of the magic items they introduce. Because, well, they've only got 500 gold. I could give them this one item that is 400 gold, and that would be basically all of it. I could give them these 2 items that cost 200 gold. They could buy each of those. Maybe like one thing costs 600 gold, and then they have to spend all of what they just got, plus have a little bit saved up. Or hang on to what they have now, save up, and then buy it later. I kind of like that, but it is a lot more work for the dungeon master. I like the dynamic of it. I don't like the additional workload. I liked in 3rd edition how everything was pretty standard because it was easy. Like I put this much gold in it because I know that if they have this much gold after this adventure, that means they can buy this, and this because that's how much the items cost. Yeah. But then you end up with, well, that means that the economy is really weird. Then that means that every player is expected to have this much gold's worth of magic items at X level and so on.
Yeah. I think with 5th edition, because there's no set prices on treasure or on magic items, like I do see more people just sort of like, you're finding the magical items that you need in the dungeon that you're in.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. They'll kind of like just kind of throw them out there, or they kind of give them as gifts to the players or something like that.
And that can be fine. But I find that in those cases, a lot of the time, the DM is also giving out gold, and then the players have nothing to spend it on.
Sure.
When 5th edition first came out, I heard a lot of complaints of people that were like, we've been playing for 6 months. My character has 5,000 gold. What do I spend it on? Because at the time, like, there weren't really magic item prices. So, like, I can't spend this on magic items. All the non-magical gear in the player's handbook is like 5 gold.
Yeah.
So what do I do? And then, people would be like, oh, put that towards building a castle or buying property or whatever. Because in earlier editions, getting property was like a big status thing. For once you reach level 10, you got a keep or whatever.
Yeah.
But they didn't have adequate rules for that at the time. Now there's been some 5th edition stuff that does have rules about buying property and building such and so on. But I don't know. It's a very, especially if you played video games, it's a very natural thing for the dungeon master to want to give out money.
Yeah.
Because it's just expected. Yeah, you killed a monster, so you get money. That's just how it is. You get money and you get experience. But without good things to spend it on, then you end up with, okay, well, how is this going to affect the economy? I've got 1,000 gold. Can I spend it in this little village? What do you do? I mean, because this is about like in-game economy and such.
Right.
To sort of come back around to the original question, like I really feel like you shouldn't try to establish how the economy works unless that is the point of the game.
Right.
Even if it doesn't make sense for you to spend 1,000 gold in this little town of 12 people, it happens because that's the easiest way to deal with it. If you want there to be repercussions later on, sure, make an adventure out of it. If the players spend a whole bunch of gold and then you realize, maybe that should have destabilized the economy. Okay, have an adventure later on where now, I don't know, someone's used all that gold to hire an assassin and kill the players because they screwed up the town.
Yeah.
Or now the town is too big and now the town is attracting all these criminals and and a dragon is now attacking that town because they've got money. So the dragon wants to steal all the gold and hoard it.
Yeah, because like as an experienced player, I've started just sort of like tossing money around.
Yeah.
Especially in 5th edition because like, yeah, you do end up with a lot of gold and not really much to spend it on.
Yeah.
So like, it's like, oh, I need these NPCs to do a thing. I just toss them a few gold. They'll go wild, like, because they're only earning 2 silver a day.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw them 5 gold and they are my best friend for a week.
A week's wages that you just tossed in.
Right. So like, it's so easy to like,
and sorry, if they're beggars, that's more than that's
right.
That's a ton of money. But like a normal worker, that's a week's wages.
Yeah. So I'm just like, you like that is the best charm spell you could ever have.
Right.
have. Like, you're just like, we need, like, we're walking into town. We need some information. Just give people money, and it's like the DM's job to kind of like, find ways to like, maybe like, okay, like you give a guy a gold, then the next guy you're going to be like, well, I want 2 gold, and like just kind of keep going. And by the time, first or second level, you really don't have a ton of money to be doing that. But like, because I know that they only make 2 silver, it's like, I'm going to get 50 gold for this, like up front for this quest.
Yeah.
Like I'm good. Like,
There are some games that instead of keeping track of how much money you have you make a wealth check.
Okay.
I don't know any like current games that do it. I mean, I'm sure they are out there, but like I know D20 Modern did that, which was back in like the early 2000s. 3rd edition D&D, I think it was Wizards of the Coast, made a modern version of it that was pretty closely. It was a D20 system, and instead of having X number of dollars, it's just your you've got like a +3 wealth skill, and then every time you make a purchase, you roll that. If you succeed, you still have the same amount of wealth. If you fail, now you've only got a +2. And then next time it's harder to do. So like the more stuff you buy, maybe the DC goes up and up and down depending on what it is you're buying.
Sure.
So the more stuff you buy and the more expensive stuff you buy, then the less you'll be able to buy in the future because your skill will get lower and lower.
Yeah, that's sort of similar to real life, to where like rich people don't have to spend as much because they get given free stuff because they're rich.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you have tons of money. Here's some free stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, you're poor? Yeah, no, that'll be $20.
Right. So I mean, like because I was going to say, because I don't want to just have the answer be like, oh, don't do it.
Right.
If you do want to make some sort of a believable economy, like I would try to have it be less about the actual amount of money that is being spent. Maybe make a skill challenge out of it. If you want the players to just use whatever costs and such are in the player's handbook, if they want to buy a pound of saffron and a goat or whatever, just have them, they can spend whatever the amount is in the book, but
pound of saffron
or whatever. I'm trying to think of what the trade goods are.
Well, yeah, no.
Like, I mean, I guess let me back up here a little bit. Like, just go by the costs in the player's handbook and the whatever magic item costs you've come up with if you're using the ones in the Dungeon Master's Guide or whatever, just use whatever costs are already established. But if you want it to feel like this is having an impact on the world, start introducing skill checks. If they do spend a whole bunch of money in the place, maybe next time they go to buy something, if they fail on a persuasion check or whatever, they aren't able to buy it because now the guy wants a whole bunch more money because now the economy's been destabilized or whatever.
Yeah.
And, make it as big of a thing or as little of a thing as you want it to be. But I don't think that it's going to make the game measurably better if you just make it more complicated.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's always kind of my attitude is like more rules don't necessarily equal more good.
Yeah.
So, try to keep it simple. Just like, a skill check every now and then. Maybe just describe the effects of what you're seeing. Maybe there's a lot more counterfeiting going on because there's a lot more gold in the economy. So now every time you buy something, the shopkeeper like bites the gold to make sure that it's real gold because, they never would have counterfeited a bunch of gold back a few months ago because everybody would have noticed it because there's no gold in this economy. What are you doing? But then when when everybody's got gold in their pockets, one gold coin here, one gold coin there, and so on and so on. I guess let me ask, is there any sort of like other type of trade good that you think would be worthwhile to use instead of coins? Like, I know that, again, in 4th edition, here's another weird thing about 4th edition. I mentioned how like the magic items would be like millions of gold. This was also the edition where it was 100 copper to 1 silver, 100 silver to 1 gold, and then like 4,000 gold to 1 astral diamond. So they were sort of trying to present, there was like an additional currency, astral diamonds, that were like, oh, this is what like planar travelers use because they've just got so much money that they just use these diamonds. But then it's like, diamonds are not a standard size or shape or anything. How big is an astral diamond? If you show up with an astral diamond that's like a little bit bigger, is it worth more?
Yeah.
And then doesn't that defeat the whole purpose of having coins? If it is, are you minting diamonds? Anyway.
I don't know, just the way that these diamonds are made.
Maybe I didn't look into the lore enough. They are a naturally occurring diamond that are exactly the same shape every time. Whatever.
Yeah. They're actually like single atoms of it,
Okay. I'm on board.
Right.
Because there was the episode of Futurama where there was like the prize for winning some kind. It was a tiara with like 1 atom on top of it.
Right.
But that atom was gigantic.
Right. Yeah. It's just a really huge, element.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't really know if there is like one good way to make a believable economy. I just think I'll put the link to the Mithril standard thing I mentioned earlier in the show notes because there is some interesting stuff in it. I just don't necessarily think that it doesn't really solve anything. It basically just says, oh, everything would be more expensive and less expensive at the same time.
Sure.
So, because if you are mining, you're going to fall into the Underdark sometimes. If you're cutting down trees, some dryads are going to take issue. A king wouldn't send a shipment of 1 billion gold coins. They would send like 3 suits of adamantine armor, which takes up way less space and is just as expensive or is worth just as much money.
Right.
And, it is interesting to see how different fantasy series deal with making their economy just a little bit different than everybody else's. But in my opinion, it's usually just set dressing, and it rarely makes a significant impact on anything.
Right.
I think the game is just at its best when it is running smoothly. If you want to put in a skill check to make it more difficult, go for it. Maybe you can come up with your own system on how the skill checks get harder as this party spends more money irresponsibly and so on and so on.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So I don't know if we had a helpful answer. Hopefully it was an entertaining answer.
Sure.
At the very least.
And at least we know that gold is shiny.
Gold is very shiny.
Shiny.
So I mentioned that I made a lightsaber earlier, and it is I bought some filament specifically, and not specifically for this, for various things. But there is I bought 3 spools of filament that are silk silver, silk gold, and silk copper.
Uh-huh.
Whenever a filament is quote unquote silk, and then the color, that is, it's shinier. Like it when it's printed, it looks kind of like it's metallic.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely got like a little sheen to it.
Yeah. So part of this lightsaber is silk gold, so it kind of looks shiny gold, and then the most of it is silk silver.
Are you going to be printing coins?
I think I might.
Yeah.
Actually, if we're able to get some sort of a game going, because like in the player's handbook, it has pictures of what 5th edition coins look like.
Yeah.
So I think I might print some silver, copper, and gold coins.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for our regular questions today, but we do still have our social media questions. The last social media question was: Fiends, Celestials, Slods, Modrons, etc. What are your favorite extraplanar creatures?
I think I said slods just because there's like a bunch of different types.
Yeah.
And I like monsters that have like variety and like and they kind of like they live in different environments and stuff like that.
Sure. I kind of like how Slods always, with every book, they like add some sort of a new quirk to Slods.
Yeah.
In 5th edition, I think all Slods have like a gem in their brain that if you're able to extract it without killing them, you gain like complete control over them or something.
Right. Yeah. Something wacky.
That's wild. but hey, I'm on board for it. So over on Facebook, Chris F, our good friend Chris,
Dang.
who was on the show 120 episodes ago or whatever. Chris says, chitons, so many tactical ways to use them. And he's, of course, referring to chain devils.
Oh,
the devils that they're wrapped up in chains. They can animate chains.
Yeah.
Chris once had a character who had access to the spell that they use to animate chains. And so every battle, he would animate a bunch of chains, all of which were serrated and laminated and critted on a 12 to 20 and would do times 4 damage or whatever. And it was ridiculous. He would grab a handful of D20s, roll it, hit, crit, hit, roll them again, hit, crit, ooh, roll it again, not a critical fumble, crit. And that was his standard. He'd pull out a calculator and he'd punch out 260 damage. But yeah, I like devils and I love chitons. I think chitons are probably my favorite devil as well. Shoot, I don't think I said what my answer was. I think mine was inevitables, which are like a mechanical outsider from Mechanist.
Right. The Marut.
The Marut is one of them. The Zellicott is another. And I'm blanking on what the other one is. But like they like hunt down people that exploit time or death. Like liches will come under the fire of a Marut eventually, and so on and so on. Because they're like times enforcers. That hunt people down and kill them. So
wasn't there a Marut that showed up? Or was it a cockatrice? Dang it!
Probably
a
cockatrice. Hold on, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Lisa G says you misspelled salads.
What's your favorite salad?
That's fruit
salad.
I don't really like salad.
Oh, what?
But man, toss some bananas and strawberries in there. I'm on board with that. Jason E says devils. Last campaign, I had a whole adventure built around a contract devil. They were trapped in this extraplanar prison, and everyone else there had made a deal with the devil, pun intended, to secure their escape, but all the deals had trick clauses, so they could never really escape. It was super fun, and throughout, the devil kept reappearing to offer them contracts for their souls. There you go. Sean M says, I had a hippie playboy bard Asimar who went to farm mushrooms with the Myconids. Tieflings seem fun too.
Huh.
Actually, I don't consider tieflings to be extraplanar creatures, because like in 5th edition at least, in my own canon, they're not demons at all.
Sure.
But in the 5th edition canon, I think they are like humans or humanoids that made some sort of a deal with the devil, and that's what altered them to be whatever. I'm not gonna police people's answers. I'm just saying I didn't think of tieflings, I guess.
Right. They're far enough removed from fiends that they're not quite, like they, I think in 3rd edition there were like the subtypes in
yes,
there were like monster types, your creature type, and there were subtypes.
Yeah, I do think they had the extraplanar subtype back then.
Yeah, so but like nowadays
they've changed the lore a bit.
Sure, yeah.
And then one more on Facebook. Ryan P says, I like the Jinn.
Oh yeah,
which short answer, but Jinn are pretty cool.
Yeah, I always wondered, like, creatures that just innately have the ability to cast a wish, like.
Yeah, I mean, they can't cast it for themselves.
That's true.
But there's ways to get around that.
Yeah. It's like, you can have 2 wishes if I get 1,
Yeah. Over on Reddit, Pruno says, Modrons. Had the Modron March go through magical Detroit. Later adventures, they would just come across 1 or 2 of them just measuring and recording random objects.
Huh.
So yeah, the Modrons, they're the primary outsiders from Mechanist.
Yeah.
They're like, they follow a strict hierarchy. They're these like mechanical, I think they're like, some of them are circles, some of them are squares, some of them are triangles or like figure 8s or whatever.
Yeah, they can only do as many actions or as many things as like that's tied to their shape or something like that.
But what Pruno is referring to is the Great Modron March is this thing that happens like every however many thousand years. On the exact same, it's like 1 full rotation of the biggest cog in Mechanist, I think, is when they do it.
Okay.
They like this army of Modrons marches across the multiverse doing something. Like they probably end up killing and destroying a lot of things in the process, but like nobody knows why they do this.
Yeah.
If there's a specific purpose, if I don't know. So like it's a thing. There was like a couple second edition adventures about it, I think. And so anyway,
you say something about them like just measuring things.
Well, then Pruno said later they would just find a Modron that was like measuring random objects.
Yeah. So maybe like
sounds interesting to me.
Maybe it's like the march is they like Mechanist just kind of goes in and like takes down all the data on all the other all the other planes.
I do know there was a second edition adventure, and I don't remember what it's called, but spoilers for whatever the second edition adventure is. It starts off with the Great Modron March happens early. Like, people know when it's going to happen next, and it happens like several thousand years early. And it turns out it's because Orcus, the demon lord Orcus, was killed and came back as a god. He then infiltrated Mechanus, killed the top Modron, took its place, and then told the rest of the Modrons to start the march now in the hopes that they would find and retrieve his weapon, the Wand of Orcus. So like that was like the adventure hook is Modrons are walking across the multiverse killing everybody.
Right.
Or whatever the heck Modrons do.
Sure.
And then it turns out that that's the cause of it. Anyway. Also on Reddit, Alistar the Minotaur says, I gotta go with Celestials. With a demon or devil, you pretty much know what you're getting. It's rare I've encountered a genuine devil that isn't looking to legally obtain someone's soul, or a devil whose pastime isn't raiding and pillaging. But a Celestial full of righteous conviction can do some pretty hellacious acts in the name of doing good. It can make for an interesting narrative when the good aligned party is forced to fight a being composed of the pure essence of righteousness and justice, because it went ahead with plan eradicate the faithless with a bit too much further. And I can get behind that.
Yeah.
I think Chris once said the most terrifying villain is a paladin.
Right.
And yeah, if there is someone that ostensibly is fighting for the forces of good, what does it mean when their goals don't align with yours and it causes a conflict?
Right.
Like, that can be a pretty terrifying thing.
That's pretty scary. Yeah.
You might not be doing something wrong, but they believe in their cause at least as strongly as you believe in yours. Mm-hmm. So that's one of my favorite conflicts is that right there. We just got one on Twitter. That's Carl with a K, says, I love elementals in all their forms. I'd love to run a campaign on the plane of Mechanus. I also love the concept of Modrons, and I also love elementals. So Modrons and elementals from Carl with a K. And elementals are another one I didn't even think of. Like they're really cool. That makes perfect sense, but wasn't even in my head when I was posing this question. Mm-hmm. And we got just a couple on Discord. Dustin F says, the Zellicate from Mechanus are my favorite, and they're one of the inevitables. They are basically lawful terminators. When one is released towards its target, it simply begins walking towards it. Across plains, through oceans, nothing slows its progress. Should it be destroyed in its quest to bring its target to justice, another one is released. They are truly inevitable. So these ones are like robotic, they are mechanical centaurs, and their arms have spiked chains coming out of them.
Oh, geez.
If I'm remembering them right.
Yeah.
Ugh. So they're definitely up there. Shadowhand Silverbones says the Marut, and then I put a little emoji of a chicken.
Right.
So in our Age of Worms campaign a long time ago, Steve was playing a character named Shadowhand Silverbones, and I had him roll like a religion check or something. Somebody mentioned a Marut, and I had him roll a religion check to see if he knew what that was. And he was a cleric, so like he should have known, but he rolled really low. So I described a cockatrice instead. And then later when he encountered a cockatrice, I was like, you see a Marut. And so all he knows is that this weird chicken thing is like one of those like horrifying extraplanar creatures that will kill anybody that gets in its way.
Right.
So there you go.
Because I was trying to remember which way the joke was. Was it that a Marut actually showed up?
Nope.
And we were calling it a cockatrice, not realizing no, this thing is gonna kill us.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Good times. And that's actually all we got. I thought we got a couple more, but on Discord it was just those ones. So yeah, that was the last question. I think we got some good answers with that one. So that brings us to our next social media question, and this goes along with today's discussion topic. What is your favorite type of fantasy currency? So, you've got your gold coins, you've got your electrum, which is like halfway between a silver and a gold.
Right.
You got trade goods, what you got astral diamonds. What is your favorite type of any kind of fantasy currency?
Have you seen The Mandalorian yet?
Yes, I just watched it a few days ago.
Okay. Not really spoilers for the Mandalorian. It's the
first episode or something.
Yeah, it's the first episode. There's the calamari, like the fish people.
Yeah.
They apparently have their own currency, and they're like these little like jelly looking pucks.
Right. Okay, I thought you were referring to something else. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So like at the beginning of the first episode of Mandalorian, there's basically like an exchange of money, and it's like in it, like one of the currencies used are like there's just like these little like discs made of like if a jellyfish was mushed into the form of a coin.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I didn't even commit that to memory.
Right,
that makes a lot of sense.
The foley that they use for it, like there's like a little squishy sound effect when they move it.
That's pretty good.
That's in more recent memory. But another currency I like that I always remember because it's from a game that I like, but it's not fantasy currency. It's Pieces of 8.
Okay.
Which is just like doubloons.
Sure. I mean, gold coins were a real thing too.
Sure, yeah.
That's fine.
But from the Monkey Islands series,
sure,
where they're in their Caribbean and they have like doubloons and stuff like that, but they're using Pieces of 8.
Sure.
Where was the currency in that?
If you've seen Pirates of the Caribbean, Captain Jack Sparrow has hanging down from his hair or whatever, like a little silver coin on the end of one of his dreadlocks.
Yeah.
And that is a piece of 8.
Oh, nice.
Because it comes into play in the third movie, I think.
Does it?
It's like one of the relics that restores what's her face to her power or something. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
It was not one of the series' best moments, but I thought when you said The Mandalorian, I thought you were going to bring up the fact that the main character is a bounty hunter, and when he turns in a bounty to this was one particular person, he is given basically like a bar of a specific metal.
It's just like an ingot.
Yeah, an ingot of this specific metal, which his people use to fashion their armor.
Right.
So like getting a piece of that means that he gets more status because he gets more armor.
Right. Yeah.
So I thought that was where you were going. But I would probably say, I'll try to see if I can come up with a better answer. But in the Dragonlance books, I think it's part of the world that part of the world building that iron is really rare. So as a result, steel coins are the primary currency. They are more valuable than gold coins.
Right.
Steel is so rare.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Yep. All right. Well, that'll do it for our questions for today. But before we close out, let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us, maybe who have paid their way so that we may. No. So the people who were in the drive-through in front of us that paid our bill, so that we may have a free meal. Let's remember them as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Today's funeral pyre story was submitted by Lucan Quildrake on Reddit, and it goes as follows. My Hexblade Warlock is fighting an iron golem. The cleric is about dead and throws a bead of force, not fully comprehending what it does. The golem and I both fail and are trapped in a force bubble together.
Ugh.
In real life, players around the table are deciding how to split up my gear after my death in the near future. So I give the middle finger to everyone while I throw a full necklace of fireball beads at my feet, destroying pretty much everything inside the bubble, myself included.
Just take it all with you.
There you go. There you go. They're destroying the value of those items.
Right.
Economy.
Yeah. Ain't worth nothing now, Jack.
Exactly. So yeah, I guess let's raise a glass in memory of Lucan Quildrake's character, who reminds us there's no such thing as a free piece of gear. Clink. All right. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. You can join the discussion on social media. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Reddit. You can find our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord. And we're on Twitter at InPartyConflict. You can check those for our weekly social media questions. If you answer them, your answers might end up on the show. Find us on the podcatcher of your choice, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube. Please review us, rate us, subscribe, or just tell a friend. We would always love some word of mouth. Any kind of support you guys can give us that way would be great. Mm-hmm. If you'd like to support the show monetarily, you can check us out at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. We have a few different tiers, which will hopefully in the near future be getting some more benefits. And so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would help make the show better and get you some bonus content in return. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where we play video games.
Yes. Speaking of video games, I have a side project, the Arcade Memories Podcast. You can check that out on iTunes, Stitcher, all that kind of stuff. And if you want to submit anything for it, submit it to arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games, courtesy of Mary and Tom, over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time.
You got change for 20?